Hi, I'm Antonella, a 32-year-old thriving in the world of interior design. Life felt pretty solid, until everything shifted when my brother Jake met Vanessa. Antonella, you won't believe it, I've met the most amazing woman. Jake practically beamed over the phone. I was genuinely happy for him. Jake and I had always been close, sharing everything. With our parents fostering a tight-knit bond between us, we had each other's backs, no matter what. But 3 months later, Jake dropped a bombshell. We're getting married. I nearly spit out my coffee. Married? Jake, you barely know her. But he was head over heels, and the whirlwind wedding soon followed. In the blink of an eye, I had a sister-in-law. At first, Vanessa seemed perfect, polite, full of smiles, but something felt off. At a family dinner, I noticed how she subtly steered the conversation. So, Antonella's still single? Don't worry, I'm sure you'll find someone eventually, she'd say with a saccharine smile, but there was always an underlying sting in her words. I shrugged it off at first, but the comments kept coming, disguised as concern but always laced with judgment. One day, while helping Mom in the kitchen, I overheard Vanessa talking to Jake. Honey, don't you think Antonella's job is a bit unstable? I'm just concerned about her future. My jaw clenched. I had built my business from the ground up. It wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. The last straw came at Jake's birthday party. Vanessa, accidentally, spilled red wine on my new dress. Oh, I'm so clumsy. But don't worry, it probably wasn't that expensive, right? She said, her smile as sweet as ever. I forced a smile, but inside, I was furious. That night, I vented to my best friend, Megan. I'm telling you, Meg, something is off with Vanessa. Megan nodded. I've noticed it too. The way she looks at you when she thinks no one's paying attention, like you're some kind of competition. I sighed, but Jake's so happy. Mom and Dad think she's wonderful. Am I just being paranoid? Megan shook her head. Trust your instincts. Antonella, keep an eye on her. So that's what I did. I watched as Vanessa subtly inserted herself into every part of our family's life. She offered to help Dad with his finances, critiquing his methods, and even reorganized Mom's kitchen, insisting it was more efficient. But it was Jake's transformation that worried me the most. My once outgoing, independent brother had become quieter, always deferring to Vanessa's opinions. It was like his spark had dimmed, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. During a shopping trip with Mom, I finally decided to bring it up. Mom, have you noticed Jake acting differently lately? She hesitated, rearranging the items in her cart. Well, sweetie, he's married now. It's normal for people to change after marriage. But it's not just that. He's like a completely different person. He barely speaks his mind anymore. Mom gave me a soft smile, the kind that said she didn't quite understand. You're just not used to sharing him yet. Give it time. I wanted to believe her, but time only seemed to make things worse. Family gatherings became tense, filled with passive-aggressive comments and uncomfortable silences. I bit my tongue every time Vanessa made a snide remark, hoping to keep the peace. But the pressure was wearing me down. My work started to suffer, and sleepless nights became routine. Then, after an especially harsh family dinner where Vanessa criticized everything from my outfit to my latest design project, I broke down in my apartment. It felt like I was drowning in the chaos she'd created. The phone rang just as the tears started falling. It was Megan. Antonella, are you okay? You seemed really off at dinner. I couldn't hold it in anymore. Every suspicion, every fear, every comment Vanessa had made, I spilled it all to Megan. The way Vanessa had slowly isolated Jake, turned family events into battlegrounds, and made me feel like a stranger in my own home. Megan was quiet for a moment before speaking with a firmness I hadn't expected. This has gone too far. Antonella, you can't just sit by and watch this happen. It's time to dig deeper. Vanessa's not who she seems, and we need to figure out what's really going on. I hung up the phone, feeling a mixture of determination and dread. I loved my family, and I'd do anything to protect them, even if it meant exposing the wolf in sheep's clothing that had infiltrated our lives. But I had no idea how much worse things were about to get. The annual family barbecue at my parents' house was supposed to be a day of fun and relaxation. Instead, it became a nightmare that would haunt me for a long time. Everyone was in the backyard, Dad flipping burgers at the grill, Mom setting out salads, and Jake helping Vanessa adjust her chair. I was chatting with my cousin when Vanessa's sharp voice cut through the air. Antonella, sweetie, could you grab me a drink? You're not doing anything important, right? Vanessa's voice rang out, cutting through the pleasant hum of conversation. I opened my mouth to respond, but before I could, Mom called everyone to eat. The tension was already bubbling beneath the surface. As we sat down to dinner, Vanessa's little jabs continued, her words sharp but coated in sweetness. "This potato salad is amazing, Mom. Much better than the store-bought one Antonella brought last time." I clenched my fork, trying to stay calm, but I'd had enough. "At least I contribute something. Vanessa, what exactly do you bring to these gatherings, besides criticism?" The table went still, all eyes were on us, and Vanessa's expression hardened, her lips curling into a tight smile. "Well, I bring class, for one thing, something you clearly lack." Before I could stop myself, the words spilled out. "Class? Is that what you call being a manipulative bee?" "Antonella," Jake's voice cut through the air, his shock evident. Vanessa rose from her seat, her eyes glistening with tears that seemed to appear on cue. "I can't believe you'd say such awful things after everything I've done for this family," she cried, rushing away dramatically, with Jake quickly following her. I sat there, my chest heaving, the weight of my parents' disappointed stares pressing down on me. Later, as I helped clean up in the kitchen, Vanessa cornered me, her demeanor changing entirely. Her soft smile had vanished, replaced with a chilling sneer. "Listen here, you little nobody. Jake is mine now, and soon this family will see you for what you are, a jealous, pathetic person," she hissed, her voice low and venomous. I blinked in disbelief. "You're delusional, Vanessa." Before I could react, she grabbed a fistful of my hair, yanking it hard. Pain shot through my scalp as she dragged me into the living room, where Jake was deep in conversation with Dad. "Jake, look what your sister did. She attacked me," Vanessa wailed, her voice trembling with false tears. Jake turned, his face a mix of disbelief and anger. "Antonella, what the hell?" I tried to explain, but my voice was drowned out by Vanessa's sobs, and Jake's mind was already made up. "I think you should leave, Antonella." The humiliation burned through me as I gathered my things and stormed out of the house, my heart pounding with frustration and rage. The next day, Megan found me still curled up on the couch in yesterday's clothes, surrounded by empty ice cream containers. She took one look at me and shook her head. "That's it," she said firmly, determination flashing in her eyes. "We're not letting her get away with this. It's time to fight back." Over the next week, Megan and I began digging into Vanessa's past, determined to expose the truth. What we uncovered shocked us both: inconsistencies in her stories, lies about the prestigious college she supposedly attended, and a company she claimed to work for that didn't even exist. Then, luck struck while we were grabbing coffee. I bumped into Sarah at a local cafe, and as soon as she heard Vanessa's name, her eyes narrowed. "Oh, you know Vanessa? How's she doing? Still ruining lives?" I blinked in surprise. "What do you mean?" Sarah didn't hold back. She told me everything. How Vanessa had a notorious reputation at her old job for workplace bullying. She manipulated coworkers, twisted bosses around her finger, and even got Sarah fired by planting fake evidence of theft. "Watch your back," Sarah warned, her voice serious. "Vanessa's dangerous, especially when she feels threatened." I left the cafe in a daze, my mind racing. I finally had proof, real, undeniable proof, that Vanessa wasn't who she pretended to be. But as I reached for my phone to call Jake, I paused. Would he even believe me? Or would confronting him just push him further into Vanessa's web? Standing there, torn between protecting my brother and risking our already fragile relationship, I realized this was only the beginning. Vanessa's mask had slipped, but exposing her was going to be far more complicated than I imagined. After weeks of internal struggle, I decided to take action. I met with Mike, a private investigator recommended by a client, at a quiet coffee shop. "So, you want me to dig into your sister-in-law's past?" he asked, tapping the folder I slid across the table. "Here's what I've uncovered so far, but I need more," I said, watching as he thumbed through the documents. He raised his eyebrows as he skimmed the pages. "Your sister-in-law's got more red flags than a carnival. I'll see what I can find." 2 weeks later, Mike called with news that sent a chill down my spine. "Antonella, your sister-in-law isn't just a liar, she's a seasoned con artist. She's been linked to multiple identities, fraud charges in 3 states, and here's the kicker, she's using your brother's business to launder money." My stomach dropped. How is she doing that? Fake invoices, ghost employees, the whole 9 yards. Your brother's company is on the verge of collapsing, and he doesn't even know it. I thanked Mike and hung up, my mind spinning. I had to tell Jake, but how could I break this to him without tearing our family apart? Before I could figure out my next move, my phone buzzed with a message from Mom. "Family dinner tonight. Vanessa insists. Please come." Perfect. Just what I needed. Dinner that night was thick with tension. Vanessa played her usual part, smiling sweetly, but her eyes were cold and calculating when they met mine. She knew something was off. I could feel it. Jake, honey, why don't you tell everyone about our vacation plans? Vanessa said, her smile strained. Jake cleared his throat. We're thinking of taking an extended trip, probably around 6 months. I nearly spit out my wine. 6 months? What about the business? Vanessa's smile faltered just a bit. Oh, Jake can manage everything remotely, can't you, sweetheart? I could see the strings she was pulling, but Jake just nodded in agreement. After dinner, I pulled Jake aside in the kitchen. Are you sure about this trip? He sighed deeply. Antonella, Vanessa thinks it'll be good for us to get away from everything for a while. I bit back my frustration, realizing how deeply Vanessa had her claws sunk into him. In the days that followed, I reached out to Sarah and other victims I'd uncovered. We formed a support group, exchanging stories and evidence. We need to stop her, Sarah urged during one of our meetings, before she does any more damage. I agreed, feeling a plan start to take shape. I think I have an idea. I spent the next week meticulously gathering all the evidence I could find, but Vanessa wasn't oblivious. She must have sensed something. One evening, as I left my office, I discovered my car's tires slashed. A note on the windshield read, "Back off, or next time it won't just be the tires." I called Megan, my hands trembling. She knows. Megan, Vanessa's figured out that I'm onto her. Megan's tone was resolute. Then we need to act fast, before she can do any more harm. I agreed and started putting my plan into action. I called my parents, Jake, and other extended family members. Emergency family meeting tomorrow night. It's about Jake's safety. As I hung up, doubt began to creep in. Was I making the right choice? What if this backfired? But then I thought about Jake's weary face and Vanessa's manipulative grip on everyone around her. No, this had to be done. The next day dragged on endlessly. I triple-checked my evidence and rehearsed my speech. As evening approached, I received a text from Jake. Vanessa's not feeling well, we might not make it. My heart sank. Of course, she tried to avoid this. I texted back urgently, please, Jake, this is important. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't. Hours passed with no response. Just as I was losing hope, I heard a car pull up outside my apartment. I looked out the window. Jake was helping Vanessa out of the car, her face pale and leaning on him dramatically. As Jake and Vanessa stepped into my apartment, the tension in the room was almost tangible. My parents, Megan, Sarah, and a few others were already there, their faces a mix of curiosity and concern. Vanessa seemed taken aback by the gathering. What's going on? Jake asked, his confusion evident. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. Jake, everyone, it's time you knew the truth about Vanessa. Vanessa's eyes narrowed, her voice dripping with disdain. Antonella, you're being absurd. Ignoring her, I pulled out a thick stack of documents and began laying them out on the table. Vanessa, or should I say Amanda, or maybe Lisa, how many identities do you have? Jake's face drained of color as he sifted through the evidence, fraudulent charges, stolen identities, and proof of money laundering through his company. Sarah and the others began recounting their experiences with Vanessa's manipulation and deceit. Vanessa tried to interrupt, her voice rising in desperation. They're lying. Jake, you know me better than this. But Jake's initial disbelief quickly shifted to anger. Is this true? Have you been using my company for money laundering? Vanessa's facade shattered. Her previously sweet demeanor was replaced by a fierce, vindictive rage. You're all fools, Jake. You were so easy to manipulate, and the rest of you are pathetic, she spat. Mom gasped. Dad's fists clenched tightly, and Jake looked devastated. Vanessa made a frantic attempt to flee, but Sarah stepped in front of her, blocking her way. Not so fast. The police are on their way. The next few hours were a blur. Vanessa was arrested, hurling threats and curses as she was escorted out. Jake sat in stunned silence, struggling to process the betrayal. As days turned into weeks, Jake filed for divorce and worked relentlessly to untangle his business from the mess Vanessa had left. I was there every step of the way, supporting him through the turmoil. Months later, as we celebrated the successful relaunch of Jake's company, he pulled me aside. Antonella, I'm sorry I didn't believe you sooner. Thank you for standing by me. I hugged him tightly, feeling our bond grow stronger. Looking around at my family, now free from Vanessa's toxic influence, I felt a deep sense of relief and gratitude. It hadn't been easy, but it was worth it. We were free, we were together, and we were stronger for having faced the storm together. Would you expose your sibling's spouse if you discovered they were a criminal, or keep quiet to protect your sibling's happiness? What's more important, family peace or justice? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you'd do. If you enjoyed this wild ride, don't forget to hit that like button.